and watched films that celebrated the war heroes, SS soldiers whose strength and ability to take people down were inspiring to us as karate champions. These were our heroes. Anyone who was a victim was weak. We considered the more Western mentality of openness, kindness, and compassion to be inferior. We valued strength and aggression. Soon after, my friends and I started a German brotherhood, a neo-Nazi brotherhood, where we would gather weekly to party, wearing our uniforms, black leather vests. We would get pumped with neo-Nazi music. We invited neo-Nazi leaders, and we connected with other groups. Things can escalate quickly, and without the initial intention, I didn't join the group because I felt hate. I had found these friends, and I felt a sense of belonging. This is what motivated me at first. So I listened to their music and did the things they did. What I wasn't able to differentiate was between friendship and ideology. And although I joined the group to belong, I grew to lead the group. The hate seeped in, and it was hard to separate it or call it out. The goal of the group wasn't to simply beat up people and go to jail. That wouldn't be effective. We had bigger plans. We wanted to take on leadership positions to further the ideology. Later on, I served in the German army, and then I attended university. I earned a degree in business administration. I was a leader of the group, I was educated, and I was a professional. In university, however, I began having questions about my ideology. I made friends that I was not supposed to have in my life. And I started to question, were we supposed to wipe out all nations that weren't German? What then? Only Germans would exist? I had questions, and things weren't making sense anymore. I didn't share these questions, obviously, with others. I kept them to myself. How did I stop my own hate? It was by receiving help from the most unlikely source, the object of my hate, from a Jewish group. I started learning and attending lectures. I was searching for answers. I attended a lecture at Berlin's Kabbalah Center, and the things I was hearing made sense to me. They spoke about universal concepts relevant to everyone, about ego and soul, responsibility for one's actions, inclusion, compassion, and fighting darkness with light. It made sense, but it was confusing at the same time, because I had been so deeply indoctrinated with hate. Until this point, hatred was a value for me. But I decided to sign up for more classes. The strongest message I took from this experience was that these people, these Jews, weren't rejecting me because of who I was. Instead, they accepted me, they welcomed me, and they taught me. They were setting the example for treating that godliness inside of me that is capable of unconditional love. They taught me to accept everyone, embracing everyone in all their diversity. I learned that we don't fight hate with hate. Similarly, we fight hate by adding light. What does it mean in practical terms? Diversity is a gift which allows us to truly share. And because we are different, and because it's difficult to share with someone, it can be called true sharing, transformational sharing. In order to overcome my hatred, I had to learn to share with people that I didn't want to share with. And that process showed me all my limitations. People who act with hatred and aggression believe their own view as the only option, and they see the problem outside of themselves. If we regard these people as less informed and in need of perspective, if we regard them with compassion and recognize their need to learn, we can help them to be more aware of their inner challenges and can actually elevate their consciousness. If you think that to eradicate hatred of anyone, education is needed, you're correct. But regular education, ethics, history, philosophy, or morality, all of these are not enough to change people. The key is a certain kind of education, an education of consciousness. At the Wannsee Conference in 1942, where the decision was made about the final solution, the participants were doctors and professors in Germany, well-educated people in a well-developed and educated country. I too was educated, and amidst this education, hate was the guiding factor. What was missing and is still missing for so many people around the world is an education of responsibility, an awareness of the reactive and proactive choices we have in each situation. I needed to pay attention to the dark parts of me, the hatred, the anger, the insecurity. I needed to acknowledge them and not hide them. I had to search and reveal the light in challenging situations. That's the only way to make the change. And I was able to because I found the teachers and the teachings of the Kabbalah Center who taught me how to recognize my ego and who embraced me with love to go through this challenging process. This is what helped me to learn from challenges, to grow from them, instead of blaming and reacting. It's not a secret to be kept. I'm happy and eager to share with others how I've done it, how to obtain this kind of education, which we all require, and which destroys hate. We must acknowledge the current danger of anti-Semitism, the danger of the ego if it's uncontrolled. When our safety is at risk, we must protect ourselves. Security is important. However, security doesn't treat the root of hatred. We need more than security. We need to treat the root and the seed of hatred through workshops, meditations, lectures, whatever awakens the heart. We have to acknowledge the hate, the evil, and the dark in the world. If we hide from it, it only gets stronger. Instead of people thinking with hate, people begin to act upon their hate, as we have seen happen so much lately everywhere. We must acknowledge its existence, and then we also need to acknowledge that there's another way. If we work together, not one country, not separately, but collaborate to spread this opposite of hate to as many people as possible, we can succeed. We will succeed. For me, it was the opposite of hate which drew the hate out of me. This is how it works. We need to make this a priority, and I think it hasn't been enough priority in the past. In my studies, I have learned how important it is to ask questions, to ask why situations are happening in my life, why things are bothering me, why things are painful for me. I ask why about everything. It helped me to be conscious, to be aware. Hatred, I learned, comes from a lack of consciousness. Learning that changed my life. I learned about consciousness, I learned about Judaism, and I decided to become a Jew. And I'm living as a Jew for more than 2 years. But I'm also German. I come from Germany, and that's part of who I am. With these two very different parts of me, one being a German who grew up with a neo-Nazi group, I had to learn to forgive the group of which I was a member and to forgive myself. I'm here to represent inner peace. That's what I was seeking for myself, and it's what I try to share with others, because that is what I believe is needed in order to stop anti-Semitism and hatred of any kind. The question is, how can we apply these lessons in our daily life, beyond attending symposia and visiting museums, but through real-life applications? Once we teach people how to take responsibility for their actions, how to be aware of their challenges in their life, and how to grow from them, we are healing the root of the problem and are making a lasting change. As leaders, you can use your skills, your strength, your opportunities to affect other people in this way, through education and consciousness, from dark to light, from hate to love, accepting the other and the different, taking responsibility and stopping the blame game. Through all of us, through media, through governmental institutions, through schools, through every channel we have, we must promote an education of the heart. Once our hearts are open, there's no room for hate. We need to promote messages where people of influence are respected because of their ability to forgive, to accept, to include, to love. These are the people who need to be made role models in every society. With all the wars around the world, the destruction, the loss of life, it hasn't achieved peace. It's worth using a different method. Fighting hate with love, with light, with consciousness. I've shared my journey with you today, and my hope is that this information doesn't end with you. If you have been touched, if you agree, if you identify with what I have shared, then you can bring this message to others, and we can continue fighting hate. I think the main takeaways are these. Sparks of consciousness made me start questioning and seek answers. I ask why. For the love of and guidance of a group of others, I received an education in consciousness and was able to open up, accept, and love instead of hate. It's about each person's personal development. It's about asking ourselves to acknowledge the dark places and accept them and deal with them, rather than covering them up. Accepting the other within each of us, then accepting the other outside. Thank you very much.
Jonathan, we all thank you for your very emotional and inspiring speech and words. And let me comment that you are a living example of hope and of why education is so crucial in the fight against anti-Semitism. Thank you. Let me give the floor to our third speaker, Ms. Nazila Goldstein.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so honored to speaking to you today in the name of the Iran National Council for Free Elections about an anti-Semitic state, anti-Semitic regime in Iran. I was only 6 years old when political Islamists formally established Khomeini's official state in Iran. Every morning, before going to school, I used to see the Cyrus the Great cylinder on the table that reminded me of respecting and tolerance together to others. However, at a school, before any programs and starting our classes, we had to chant, "Down to USA, down to Israel." And we had to cross the Israel and American flags to get into the classroom. But at the end of the day, as all media were under the control of the regime, the only way we could communicate with the outside world was by radio. At night, my father would catch up with Persian Israeli radio so we could hear the real news from Tel Aviv. Since the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran in 1979, the destruction of Israel has been one of the foundations of the regime's ideology. an official anti-Semitic state with the slogan of eliminating the Israel from the world map. This strategy has become an official state policy. On May 9, 1979, the Jewish community head Habib Elghanian, who was accused of Zionist and espionage for Israel, he was executed. The same year, Al-Quds Day was invented as a result of Khomeini's anti-Semitic propaganda, as he declared the confrontation with Israel as a religious duty. Quds Day is the annual anti-Zionist day. Islamic Republic commemorates this day by organizing marches and expressions of hatred toward Jews and the state of Israel. According every year, on the last Friday of Ramadan, Al-Quds Day commemorates with mass parades led by the regime to emphasize hatred of the state of Israel. Jews, along with other official religions, Christians, Baha'i, Sunni, and Zoroastrian, are subjected to humiliation as second-class citizens. The Islamic Constitution has restricted their religious freedom. They need permission and control to perform their religious ceremonies. The value of their lives is set at half a Muslim, and in case of a Jewish woman, it reaches a quarter. They are barred from many governments and military status in any levels. The anti-Semitic propaganda of the Islamic Republic is getting more and more fierce. It has come to the point that the word Jewish has become a synonym for humiliation. The Ministry of Guidance and Culture, whose blade of censorship is sharp, not only permits to print books and make films of this kind, but also sometimes invest for their production. I just give you an example. The film Antisemitism is cooperation of the Islamic Republic and a French company. The author and director of the film is Dieudonné, who had previously made Mahmoud. The anti-Semitism film, according to Mohsen Ali Akbari, made with the invitation of Iran's Deputy Director of Cinema and cooperation to Mohsen Ali Akbari, cooperation of French La Plume Company. Ali Akbar said about the motivation of the film that anti-Semitism is a comedy film that mocks Jewish thought. It also mocks the Auschwitz camp in a part of the film, and Holocaust denier Robert Faurisson plays his own character in this film. Many media outlets have trained to spread lies and insults against Jews, from insulting wives to accusation of adultery with their daughters or a spread of corruption for controlling the world. Indeed, the Islamic Revolution aroused fears among Iranian Jews, and around 2/3 of the community, despite having a 2,700-year background, more than the Muslim in Iran, forced to leave their homeland because of discrimination and negative propaganda and the restrictions. However, wherever they went, they kept Iranian culture and civilization alive and are one of the pride of Iran from Tel Aviv to the United States in front of the Islamic regime. After Nazis, we must fight Khomeini seriously. They formed many militia under command of Qasem Soleimani in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Lebanon to get closer to Israel by occupying the region. Their main objective has been the export of its totalitarian ideology in the Middle East and elsewhere in the world. With Al-Quds force, Soleimani became its great craftsman. For him, human life had no value. His only desire was to extend the ideological and military influence of the regime and ultimately to wipe Israel off the map. Today, this terrorist Soleimani has been killed. European and European deputies must stand with the Iranian people against this Islamic Republic. Europeans must join us and fight terrorism and anti-Semitic along with the policies of the current United States administration. The Islamic Republic must not allow obtaining nuclear weapon because then it will increase its threats against the world. Maximum pressure campaign must continue with strength. Today, Iranian people are fighting this ideology, and thousands of the human rights and political activists are in prisons because they want to struggle against this kleptocratic, theocratic, and anti-Semitic regime, and they want to achieve the peace and friendship in the Middle East. They refuse to act cross on the flags of Israel, and they reject all the anti-Semitic slogans from Islamic regime. In memory of the Tehran children, a group of Polish Jewish children, many orphans or separated from their parents who escaped the Nazi German occupation of Poland, this group of children was later evacuated with several hundred adults to Tehran after summer 1942. Once the children were gathered in Tehran, the camp, which rapidly became known as the Tehran Home for Jewish Children, received assistance from the local Jewish community, and most of them recovered their health in the Tehran camp. In 1943, the children with their adult escorts crossed from Persian Gulf to the Sinai by train and arrived at the Athletes Refugee Camp in 1943, where the issue, I don't know if I pronounce well, welcomed them. 35 of the Tehran children died as soldiers in Israel's war of independence in 1949. Ladies and gentlemen, a large of people in Iran strongly believe that Israel and Iran will be strong allies in near future after the Islamic Republic, because of their cultural and historical common history and culture, for the sake of peace and stability in the Middle East. We hope to see as soon as possible an Israeli embassy in Tehran and an Iranian embassy in Jerusalem. I hope to see you all in Yusufabad Synagogue, one of the oldest synagogues in Tehran. Am Israel Chai.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for that panel. We're going to move to our next panel. Thank you very much for your important interventions at this symposium. We are going to finish this symposium with our last panel, which is called Positive Changes and Solutions, where we're coming up and we're giving you some concrete examples of positive actions and positive initiatives in Europe that are making a difference in countering and fighting anti-Semitism. So I would like to invite our next panel straight away, the Hungarian Minister of Justice, Mrs. Judit Varga. From the Portuguese Ministry of Education, the Deputy Secretary of State, Dr. João Costa. A German member of the Bundestag, Mr. Frank Müller-Rosentritt. From the International March of a Living, the Deputy World Chairman, Aharon Tamir. And the moderator for this next session is our dear friend, Dr. Kalman Jalai from the Action and Protection League. So I shall hand over to Kalman. Thank you very much, dear guests. You're very welcome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, my name is Kalman Szalai. I am the Secretary of Action and Protection Foundation and Head of Operation of the Action and Protection League of Europe. Let me warmly welcome you also as the host of this event. In Hungary, Rabbi Köves established an Action and Protection Foundation in 2012 with the aim to offer new alternatives to counter anti-Semitism based the will of Jewish communities to take effective actions. Since then, it has been accepted that anti-Semitism is not only a matter of Jews. All members of the society can face anti-Semitism and can suffer from it. Like everyone, the Jewish community has also responsibility for counteracts. In this panel, titled, as it was mentioned, Positive Changes and Solutions, we would like to present the best practices and successes that were achieved by the strong will to act properly and effectively. What was our acting approach? Education. Lack of knowledge and ignorance are directly related to anti-Semitism. Therefore, effective counter programs can be implemented in the frame of